I sucked my thumb for 25 years. This congenital habit was the first real source of contention between my father and me. "Child, do you want to look like Bugs Bunny?" When I'd answer him with, "What's up, Doc?" he was not amused. My father was a mathematician. He loved numbers so much that he did other people's taxes for fun. He tried to order our world, our family, to mimic the symmetry of the discrete mathematical models he designed. But there was nothing discrete about me, his firstborn. He thought numbers can be irrational, but not people, and certainly not his child. A slender and disciplined man who woke up at 5 a.m. every morning to exercise, he was confounded by the fact that I was athletic, but still stocky. "You're no Slim Jim. You'll have to watch what you eat." But he watched more than I did, and the thumb sucking became more frequent and more flagrant. I would even suck my thumb in public just to embarrass him. When he covered my hands at night with gloves, I cut off the thumbs. When he coated it with a dark liquid tasting like Listerine and black licorice, I'd scrub my thumb raw. When he ordered a retainer with a thumb guard that made me talk like this, I'd flick it out during class, hoping it would be confiscated. One day, I was sent home with a note that read, "If Yasmin cannot retain her retainer, she should not bring it to school." That's when he switched tactics. He bought me Pippi Longstocking books depicting a freckle-faced heroine with strong white teeth. Pippi could do whatever she wanted and conquer the world. Her fearlessness inspired me. When I wanted to study piano, Daddy bought home a large antique Chickering upright, untuned, and smelling of musty keys and lemon pledge. When I wanted to play clarinet, done. When I declared at 15 that I wanted to be a diva, not Mariah Carey, but Maria Callas, he paid for private lessons and took me to my first opera in San Antonio, despite the fact that he preferred Thelonious Monk to Madame Butterfly. But I still question his motives. He was the opposite of touchy-feely. Hugging made him physically uncomfortable. "I love you because you're my child," which made me feel that I was an obligation, not an object of affection. When I told him how I felt, he said, "It's time you stop being my child and become my daughter." According to him, I didn't need more attention. I needed to grow up. When informed that I had, in effect, a permanent baby tooth, number T, located on the lower right side of my mouth, the dentist said, "She'll be your baby forever." My father did not appreciate the symbolism. I, on the other hand, nicknamed her Pippi and secretly blamed her for all those things I did that were soft disappointments for my father, like shaving off half my hair in high school, cropping all my shirts like Madonna, getting slapped with academic probation my freshman year of college, where I skipped more classes than I attended. None of this sat well with a man who had overcome so much adversity to achieve all that he had. My father had been born blind and hearing impaired. He didn't gain his sight until he was 7. He grew up segregated by race, class, and handicap. The comfortable life he had created for us had been hard-won. He and my mother had handed everything to me, and I was throwing it away. I knew I had to change. My grades went up, my weight came down. I got a copywriting gig with Ogilvy and Mather in New York City, then a full fellowship to UC San Diego to work on my PhD in English American literature. I even got my first story published in the Trinity Review, but he never read it. But I felt I was on my way to becoming the daughter he wanted. That is, until I found Jesus. My father was an agnostic. He could not prove that God did not exist, but he thought there was plenty of evidence supporting the irrationality of religion. When I settled for an MA instead of completing my PhD, he reasoned that I had been distracted by the church. He declined to read my thesis. What's the point? You have no academic merit. That hurt. When our calls and correspondence grew distant, he again blamed the church. He even mailed me a 2-line note. I don't know if you're dead or alive. Call me, Dad. I did call him. I left academia for advertising and was doing well. I got veneers. Bye-bye bugs. I was even getting 5-figure bonuses when Pippi got restless and wanted to go to law school. She wanted to defend liberty and pursue justice. My mother was thrilled. My father said I wasn't adversarial enough to litigate. But when I made law review, I could hear his smile through the phone. He even sent me an iBook as a gift. When one of my articles was published and won an award, I sent him a specially bound copy. But he never read that one either, although I would see it in plain sight on visits home, placed on the corner of his office desk. I had been living in Chicago and working for the American Bar Association when my mother called one day. She needed me. I moved back to Texas in September 2008. 2 months later, my baby tooth cracked. 2 months after that, I found out my father had terminal cancer. In the last 2.5 years of his life, I spent more time with Daddy than I had since junior high. I stood beside him when he voted for Barack Obama. We made his special pecan pies. I still lost playing him at chess. I returned books I'd stolen from him. And he forgave me. By this time, my baby tooth was a crater. There was no nerve, so there was no pain. Rolling my tongue along its jagged edges was comforting. When I told my father my baby tooth was still hanging on, he only shook his head. She'll come out when she's ready. We had been on a trek to the backwoods of Texarkana to visit the land he was raised on and cherished. He surprised me when he dug his hands deep into the damp red earth that fed towering pines belonging to our family for over a century. He wanted us to know that our family was always deeply rooted, no matter where we were. I had a short story published on NPR. It was fiction, but the father figure in the story was based on Daddy. I sent him the link. The next time I saw him, his striped pajamas swallowed his wafer-thin frame, his smile wide, despite obvious fatigue. I read your story. Nice job. I especially liked Red Delicious, a reference to his '65 Mustang that had a cameo. We hugged, and for a few seconds, we just held each other. I was with him when he died. His last breath was a gasp. I couldn't breathe for what felt like minutes. His last words to me were, "Go out, enjoy the day, take a picture." The man who helped give me life wanted me to embrace it, to gasp all the air I could breathe, until the very end. Now, I wake up at 5 a.m., just like my daddy, to seize the day. I did finally let go of Pippi. Baby tooth number T was replaced and officially crowned number 29. She's all grown up now, and so am I.